Hello, you're very welcome along to another episode of the Tackling Sport podcast. It's Daniel here, once again joined alongside me by my brother Sean.
How's it going?
Not too bad, Sean. We've had a busy week with Cheltenham previews and stuff like that. And the next 4 Mondays, for those who haven't listened, so we did day one last Monday, and over the next 3 Mondays, we'll be doing day 2, 3, and 4. And we'll also have a live Cheltenham preview announcement coming soon. But this week, or this for Thursday's episode, we're bringing back Premier League predictions. I'm joined by our champion who defeated Conor Daly, Shane Sexton. Shane, welcome to the show, Manchester United fan.
How's it going? How's it going, lads? Good to be back. Tough beating Conor there last week, an old pal of mine, but got to do what you got to do.
And you exchanged a few words after. It was all pleasant.
Oh yeah, nothing but respect. Nothing but respect between me and Conor. We'll be cheering on Fulham for the rest of the season.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're all going to roam behind Fulham, Sean, to be honest with you, after that win there last week. And can Fulham replace Sheffield United as your bottom team? Then we can support Sean. Or
I actually watched was on Sky the other night. I watched the playoff final against Brentford, and the 2 goals Joe Byron scored. So yeah, I've got a bit of that feeling. That was a brilliant interview by Scott Parker actually. After the playoff final, when he was getting a bit emotional about, sitting at home on a Saturday night, eating a curry, celebrating a win, and then you wake up tomorrow morning, or you wake up Sunday morning, your next job's the game in midweek. So he'll be happy with the last week and a big win against Sheffield United. Although I think they got very lucky with a dubious or good decision for them with the penalty shout.
Absolutely, yeah. I think they're only 3 points off. So we wanted to get someone now, Shane, that could take you on and ideally beat you, to be honest with you. And we used to play, for those that haven't heard, similar to Football Manager, was Soccer Manager. It was like a poor man's Football Manager, online multiplayer. And one of those players we used to play against was someone under an alias of Tim Sherwood, who we subsequently found out wasn't the real Tim Sherwood, but was in fact Chelsea fan Morgan Ryan. Morgan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, lads. Well, Tim Sherwood, he wouldn't have been up to much back then anyway, after getting sacked by Spurs, and has been up to much since, so could have been.
He's on Gillette Soccer Saturday now. I actually listened to him the other day, and he was talking about Grealish. I think he had Grealish when he was at Villa, but he's just him and Paul Merson sitting in his studio, 2 cockneys talking about football. Oh, it's brilliant.
Depressing.
And you're living over in London, Morgan?
Yeah, I'm West London. I'm only 10 minutes away from Stamford Bridge, the home ground, so it's handy for match days when we could go. But yeah, so the last game I was at was Frank's last game in front of a full stadium, 4-0 against Everton, about March last year. So yeah, look, I go for a walk by the stadium some days before match days, and you'll hear the Liquidator Chelsea song as they come out of the tunnel, and it's just like what I'd give to be back in the stadium. But yeah. Looking more likely we'll be back in stadiums here by summer for the Euros if they go ahead, but definitely for next season, more so than back home. So looking forward to some good football this weekend.
Absolutely. Morgan, of course, you being a Chelsea fan, we got Chelsea United, which will be the main game we're going to preview, but we'll start as always. For those that tune in before, it's 3 points for a win, or 3 points for correct score. I keep saying a win. It's just instinctive there. 3 points for correct score, 1 point for correct result, and winner stays on. It was a low enough scoring last week, Shane, wasn't it? But I think it was 1-0 or 0-0 after 5 games.
Yeah, it wasn't great. The old Instagram story didn't look too good after. I think it was after 5 games. I think it was 1-0 Conor. But I managed to get the correct result in the West Ham game, which got me over the line in the end. So that was much needed.
Listen, Shane, a win's a win. You can't be the best every week, So
got to grind out results.
You got to grind out those results. But listen, we'll stick with you, Shane, for Manchester City versus West Ham, the first game that we're going to preview. How do you see this game going?
Yeah, City weren't at their best against Arsenal when they beat them 1-0 there last week. Like Arsenal letting 5'6" Raheem Sterling free header after 70 odd seconds on the 6-yard box wasn't great, but in front of goal, City didn't seem to be at their very best, but they were still so good. Like the commentators kept saying, oh, they need to see it out, grind out a win. But in fairness to them, they just kept the ball. It was almost like a training game. Once you go 1-0 up, just keep the ball. At times it looked like they had an extra player on the pitch, and that's not really a dig at Arsenal. I just think City are a class apart, in fairness to them. And West Ham, really good results against Spurs there last week, beating them 2-1. Secret agent Jesse Lingard coming up with the goods as usual, and the Moisaya, the two lads, they seem to get on really well. They had a nice encounter after, I think it was after Moises was interviewed and Lingard was coming on next. So it seems to be, but there seems to be a real togetherness about the whole team, in fairness. The likes of Rice and Souček, really, really solid. So yeah, I like West Ham for top four. I wouldn't think it's going to happen, but they deserve to be where they are, in fairness. But all in all, I'd say City will just have too much class for them on the weekend. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 City win.
2-0 City win. Morgan, our own Sean Hussey ruled West Ham out of the top six race last week. Do you give them a chance, and how do you see them getting on against Manchester City?
West Ham will revert to David Moyes at Man United this weekend. It'll be absolutely shocking. They played Liverpool earlier in the season. They kind of reverted to what West Ham did last season, which they sat back and they were just happy to soak up pressure, and it didn't work out well. They'll do this completely again this weekend. They know they have no chance against City. But Mikel Antonio's been back in the goals after his injury. He'll try and bully Stones because he's the weaker centre half out of him and Diaz. But I think with the players around them and with Rodri and potentially Fernandinho, if he plays, I just don't think they'll have anything for them. West Ham have been good to watch and done the double over Spurs for the first time in God knows how long. With that Lanzini going like 90 plus minutes earlier in the season. But yeah, it's City all day. It's 3-0 City.
Sean?
Yeah, no, it's certainly an interesting one. Man City have done well this year at times when they've scored goals in the first 10 minutes, on 4 or 5 occasions recently, and that showed at Arsenal. So I think if West Ham can hang in there, they could definitely make it tough for them. I'm wondering, Laporte starting tonight in the Champions League alongside Diaz, and I wonder, does Laporte start as a left back against West Ham? And I think that will show you if Pep Guardiola fears West Ham on the break, or does Zinchenko retain his league position. But yeah, I'm not sure about West Ham. I heard Declan Rice on TalkSport saying that West Ham deserve to be in the Champions League for the size of the club, which I thought was an interesting statement, considering I don't think West Ham have won the league and have been in the Championship a couple of times in the last 15-20 years. But whatever him and Jamie O'Hara agree on is not up for debate.
I really hope we don't have any West Ham fans listening, to be honest. It's just lost those subscribers and follows. But yeah, so listen, most of the lads think come to a Manchester City game. Morgan, we'll go to you for West Brom versus Brighton. What did you make of Brighton on Monday Night Football? We were actually sitting, myself and Shane were sitting here watching it. I don't think I've ever seen, and it's maybe recency bias, but I don't think I've seen a smash and grab like that, to be honest with you.
Brighton had 25 shots and only had 5 shots on target. 20, that's 1 in 5 shots, 20% of the shots on target. So if you're going to have 25 shots, you'd want to be having more on target than that. West Brom, on the other hand, God almighty, Big Sam, he's stealing a living. I think he should be gone off to following Mick McCarthy to Cyprus and then to the Championship. The only thing that I hope from this game, if I end up watching it, is if Aaron Connolly gets a few minutes. The lad's been on the bench for the last 2 games, and I've seen, I think, 14 games and 6 of them off the bench so far this season. I know he's been in and out with injury and COVID and all that kind of stuff, but you'd hope from an Irish standpoint, with the internationals coming up in the next month or so, that he gets amongst the goals or assists or something. West Brom without their main centre half, Ajayi, after getting sent off last weekend after 30 minutes against Burnley. But it's really a game I don't think anyone cares about, not even West Brom or Brighton fans care about it that much. I went with a 1-1 draw. I was tempted by 1-0 Brighton, but I can just see West Brom nicking something from a set piece, as they typically do.
Yeah, Shane, what were your thoughts on that smash and grab and Brighton's performance?
Roy Hodgson masterclass. Roy knew what he was up to. Yeah, Brighton, geez, they just need someone, a consistent striker. Like, you look at, like, they brought on Welbeck, he's not going to get you any goals. Even like Connolly doesn't have a good goal scoring record. Mopé is very hit and miss. He might score a couple of games in a row, then he just go missing. They've got all these technically really good players like Gross, Lallana, McAllister, Trossard, but they just don't seem to have someone like an out-and-out striker. You know, Cavani just comes to mind, someone who's just going to be in the right place at the right time, just constantly in between that 6-yard box and the penalty spot. Someone just put in the goal. But in saying that, West Brom had a decent draw against Burnley, considering they were down to 10 men. But as Morgan said, Ajayi is a massive loss, both like defensively and going forward. He's got them a few goals, and the sort of goals that West Brom are scoring tend to come from set pieces or the long throw, and Ajayi's a real handful there. I think Brighton, like I'm gonna give Brighton the benefit of the doubt here. I think they'll dominate the game as they usually do against the sort of lesser sides, and surely they'll score a goal. I think they're really sort of well set up, and I think they should really back Graham Potter. Hopefully they do in the transfer window. I think coming up, if they added like a proper striker and maybe just another defender, you know, they could be sort of aiming for anywhere between 10th and 14th maybe next season. I think they really could do that, but I'm going to go for a 1-0 Brighton win.
Marginally favour Brighton. Sean, I don't know if you saw Gus Poyet, you probably did, that he was saying the last 15 minutes that players weren't staying in their positions and everyone kind of panicked, basically, I'm kind of simplifying what he said. Was that a case, or was he probably oversimplifying that a bit and that problem was already happening before the 75th minute in terms of not scoring a goal?
No, I don't think they really created much in that last 10 minutes, played into Crystal Palace's hands. And they're really good when they're getting the ball at the edge of the box and they're kind of stretching the Crystal Palace defence and getting in between the midfield and kind of having a run on the likes of Cahill and Kiate. I thought it was like watching Ireland at times under Martin O'Neill. Like even before the second goal, I was like, this is just Ireland, and to show so much heart, and Gary Cahill and Kiate put their bodies on the line, and then when it comes to it, a ball into the box, and it's just a bit of quality. And this is down for a West Brom win. Do you know when teams, they moments in the season that could change a team? I think this could change Brighton, because they've been having this for 6-7 games now, where they've been, you know, top of the XG against the opposition or whatever, and they come out and they don't get the points. And if you don't get the points, it's a points business, results business. And West Brom have been improving. I thought they're very good in the second half, especially at Burnley, created a lot of chances. And I'm going for a Big Sam win here, and that new striker Diane, or Mboy Diane, he's a handful. Get him to score a couple of goals.
Was it like watching Stephen Kenny's Ireland against Martin O'Neill's Ireland there on Monday Night Football?
Yeah, it was kind of like that. But for all that Brighton were good, there wasn't an awful amount of times where you went, oh, he's missed a sitter. There was no massive sitters missed. There was a lot of kind of snap chances. There was a couple of times where, you know, they could have done better to get a shot away to keep him as a half good save, and it was 3 or 4 goal-mouth scrambles. But I would really worry for Brighton at times, because that's the most demoralising way to lose a game. You can lose a game by, you know, being bad and defending, but when you have all the ball, all possession, you know, one stupid ball into the box and the game's over. And no, I you know, Graham Potter would have been furious with that, but I'd really worry for Brighton at the moment, because, you know, they had, what was it, 7 games unbeaten, and then, you know, Palace end that and ended in the way it did on Monday Night Football, and it just gives West Brom a lift, it gives Newcastle a lift, it gives Fulham a lift, and yeah, I'd be cagey about them now. But they do play great football, and they are only a player or two away. But I mean, I just fancy Big Sam here all day.
It's kind of last chance saloon for Big Sam, really, if he does want to keep West Brom in the league. And Morgan, we'll go to you for Leeds versus Villa. I don't know if you've heard much about our Leeds kind of talk, but what do you make of Marcelo Bielsa and what he's done at Leeds this season? And then going into that Villa game, how do you see that game going?
What Bielsa's done with Leeds over the last 3 years and 3rd or 4th season now with them has been none short of remarkable, considering a lot of that squad he's brought up from the Championship and they're still playing great football. but he didn't deserve to be in the manager of the year candidate talk at all for winning the championship with Leeds. Like it's the championship. It's not like he brought them up and won the league with Leicester, like Leicester did, or anything like that. Great win for them last night for 3-0 against Southampton. Patrick Bamford, will he play for England? God knows. But it's a quick turnaround for them lads. So you got to worry about squad fitness there and the lack of energy they could have going into this game, even though they did have a big win last night. That'd be more so what I'd be concerned about with Leeds than anything. And they're very shaky at the back. Click has looked quite ropey at times. But then you have the likes of Rafinha going forward, who's sensational. But you could see him staying another year at Leeds, and then he'd be off on a big money move to someone like Arsenal, where sit on the bench behind Willian. But yeah, I'd be worried about Rodrigo. I'm not sure if he's match fit for this, but he was a big money signing alongside Rafinha and hasn't done anything really. On the other hand, Villa's signings this season have been none but short sensational. Martinez looking like the keeper of the season, or if not signing of the season, especially coming from Arsenal, where he couldn't get a look in, bar for Leno getting injured at the end of last season. Tough loss against Leicester. Grealish doesn't look like he's going to be fit. All the Villa players are taking him out of their fantasy football team. It's been all over TalkSport. And if Grealish isn't fit to start, it doesn't start, or doesn't have anything, Ross Barkley really needs to step up his game. He was very poor last game against Leicester. Yeah. And that's what frustrated Chelsea fans for a lot of the last few seasons, that he has glimpses or games where every two he'll have put a string of games together and he'll be well, and then he'll just fall off a cliff. So I think with Ollie Watkins up front and Leeds being very attack minded, I think Villa will nick this one 2-1. But I wouldn't be surprised if this goes 5-4 or something like that. It could be absolute goals galore here.
Yeah, it's one of those games that 3 results are definitely possible, and would be even 20 minutes to go in a game. If either team's 2-0 up, you wouldn't really you'd still be watching. But Shane, do you kind of agree with Villa there? Maybe the game set up a little bit for Villa, like Morgan said.
Yeah, I think a lot comes down to Grealish's fitness. If he plays, they've obviously got a massive chance. They weren't bad against Leicester, I thought, in the first half last week when Leicester beat them. I thought in the first half they were a bit sort of slow out of the blocks, and Leicester sort of caught them on the hop and were 2-0 up pretty quickly. They were better second half. But again, with sort of Leeds, it's hard to know. Like they played twice last game week. Like it's a poor enough performance against Wolves. They were a little bit unlucky, I suppose, with the goal, and then the Bamford VAR decision. They don't seem to string too many wins together, but again, they were good against the Saints to win 3-0. I think there will be goals in this game. I have it as sort of a score draw, so I think it'd be 2-2 between Leeds and Villa.
Yeah,
Desmond there for Shane. Sean?
Yeah, I thought Leeds were full value, especially in that second half, but the first half they're kind of slow to get going, and probably weren't the Leeds of old, and probably took them a little bit. And I know the pitch at Ellen Road's obviously a massive issue.
Just what did you make of the Che Adams goal? I'm not just saying it because it's Che Adams, but I looked at someone slowed it down and the whistle was blown just as the ball was kicked. Do you think Mariner should have just held it off and let VAR make the decision? Or
yeah, I think his problem was that he blew his whistle not facing the ball, and I think that's a big no-no in refereeing world. And I think when he does, I think you can see it in his eyes. He's made a blunder. He knows by the reaction of the players. But it's a big thing now. Teams do take really quick free kicks, and there's always an argument. I know West Ham had a couple of opportunities. I think West Ham had one at Stamford Bridge where Declan Rice was threw off a quick free kick. I'm not sure what happened there, but Mariner definitely got it wrong. But penalty that probably wasn't a penalty. But things just went Leeds' way, and they took full advantage for that. And Southampton capitulated really poor. I think when team, it just shows you when teams are exposed, like Bednarek and Vestergaard, when they were exposed, they got absolutely rinsed. And it's all right defending well in a nice, short, compact area. I think Villa are going to do the same. I think Villa are going to do the opposite side. I think they're going to have to sit in I don't think they have enough quality without Grealish. McGinn I thought was pretty poor against Leicester. And I think it's like the Wilfred Zaha one that came out, John McGinn, and said, look, every team would struggle without Jack Grealish, but we're not a one-man team. I think when you have a player that's so influential, that's top of the chances created, that's top of fouls won, and he plays for Aston Villa, a mid-table team that just about stayed up. I think everyone forgets that Villa were one of the favourites to go down this year. A lot of teams thought they'd go down, a lot of people. So I definitely think they're going to struggle without Jack Grealish, and I think Dean Smith will know it, and he'll want more from his Traore. And I think what Villa is, and I think it's the problem with clubs like that size, that as soon as you lose a player like Grealish, I don't think El Ghazi's up to the level maybe required. Now he had a good spell of Christmas, Trezeguet. Traore is a good player, but is he going to do it without Grealish? So I think Leeds are on for another win here.
Yeah, Leeds.
And it's a feisty game actually, because the last time they played in the Championship was the kind of the disallowed goal with Bielsa and Terry Rowan on the line and Pontus Jansson, and there's not many of the Villa players. There's a few of them that would have played in that game, but a few of them have gone on. But that was a memorable moment when Leeds were going for promotion.
That was the season. Go on, Morgan. Yeah.
Just on that point there, people forget Villa were literally goal line technology working away from going down. Like that's what kept them up at the end of the day. So
yeah, and I think with that is it's probably just showed the difference with when you have a goalkeeper that wins your points. And Martinez won the points at Brighton, for example, and Dean Henderson last year for Sheffield United won them countless points. And when you lose that level of goalkeeping and you lose 5 or 6 points, all of a sudden you're 4 places down the league. Like Southampton are, I think, 14th now when they were, 8th. They were top of the league.
Top in November.
Top after beating Liverpool, was it? So it just shows you how volatile the league is this year, but also that Villa, that I think Dean Smith will be happy to just finish 7th or 8th and come to the summer. And I think they're going to have to make, I know they signed Grealish down to a big contract, but they might have to make a decision around what's the best for Villa. Do they cash in and get 100 odd million or whatever for Grealish?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see Villa maybe next season and how they react to Martinez. Isn't quite at the level, but Shane, we'll go to you for Newcastle versus Wolves. We'll fly through the next few. We actually just discussed this before we started. Shane mentioned Newcastle Wolves. I kind of went, oh Jesus. I don't know why I'd get more excited by West Brom Brighton than Newcastle Wolves, to be honest with you. And, I don't know what your thoughts are, Shane.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be watching this one. I don't know
8 o'clock Saturday.
8 o'clock Saturday. No, thanks. Watch Curry or something.
No, and Saturday.
And
Decker back, yeah.
We'll watch that. Newcastle, in fairness to them, against United, were probably the better team in the first half anyway. They were a little bit unlucky to go a goal down against the run of play. Saint Maximin is going to be a massive player for them between now and the rest of the season, especially with Wilson out. Maximin is the only sort of player who looks like he can really sort of create something out of nothing. So it's definitely vital for them to keep him fit. And as for Wolves have been on a sort of steady run of form in the last 4 games. I think they've 10 points in the last 4 games. So they picked up some good results. I'm gonna fancy a Wolves win here, 2-1 Wolves. I think they'll just have enough to see past Newcastle.
Yeah, Morgan, do you agree with that, or I don't know what your thoughts on Newcastle are overall?
I think Steve Bruce needs to be sacked as soon as possible if
yes,
Newcastle want to do anything going forward. The only way Saint Maximin stays at Newcastle is if they get the new ownership during the summer and they bring in players around them, or else he'll be off to an Everton like Yannick Bolasie did back from Palace back in the day. He's good, but I don't think he's a game winner on his own, so I can't see him going any higher than that. Wolves, on the other hand, I just don't know what to make of them. I think the losses of Jota and Matt Doherty have hurt them a lot more than people would have thought, and as well as having Jimenez out with the head injury for large parts of this season. And then Adama Traore has just been shown for a one season wonder. But this game is going to be as boring and dreary as Steve Bruce is. It's going to be 1-0 Wolves. Ruben Neves penalty in the 56th minute or something like that.
Shane, did Traore comment there? Are you kind of a fan of his? Are you the one season wonder? Is that a bit harsh?
I think that's a little bit harsh. Like he in fairness to him, he has actually he's really worked on sort of his end product, and I think the fact that they've missing Jimenez now for a long time, he still puts in a lot of good crosses. It's just they've only got sort of Fabio Silva in there, who's obviously very inexperienced, got a lot of potential, but I think Traore looks good when he's got sort of Jimenez to aim in the box. And I wouldn't say a one season wonder. Like I'd say maybe a few bigger clubs would be sort of tempted to take a punt on him just because he's so quick. So yeah, I think one season wonder might be a bit harsh there, but I can sort of see where Morgan's coming from.
I think he misses an overlapping Matt Doherty outside him. I don't think Semedo gives him the same option outside of him. That takes that defenders away or makes them runs inside that Doherty did last season, which got him his move to Spurs. So it's just hard to know with Semedo if he offers the same thing to Traore that Doherty did last season.
I think
it'd be great to see Doherty back at Wolves. Sorry, Sean. Just it doesn't see Jose doesn't seem to fancy him. Wouldn't be shocked if Wolves went back in for him. Try get him back. I
do like the new fella to have up front, William Jose. I think he's kind of added something different to them, and it's no coincidence that they've won a few games that now that he's kind of been in and around the side. But yeah, it's probably not one for the neutrals, Newcastle, Wolves. So I'll probably go with a 0-0 or a, like Morgan said, a 1-0 Wolves.
Yeah, just look at Traore. I think he's 2 assists, 17 starts this year. But looking at the positives, I think 2 have come in the last 7 or 8 games. So be interesting how he gets on by. He's definitely missing.
You don't necessarily have a player like him for his numbers. I think everyone's fixated on numbers these days, and I think that's probably because of what Messi and Ronaldo have done with their goals. And you hear like people like James Maddison speak, it's all about numbers. You look at someone like Mason Mount, who might necessarily have the same type of numbers of goals, but he's been Chelsea's probably been Chelsea's best player this year. I think Traore is like that. I don't think you necessarily have him for goals. You probably have him for moments. And Wolves don't. Well, they did for a while, but now they don't concede 2 or 3 goals a game. They don't need to score 4 to win games. And I think people are probably fixated on numbers a lot. But there was also Nuno didn't start him at the start of the year. He's kind of come back in now that they've gone kind of 4 or 5 at the back. But I don't necessarily think every player should be judged on numbers either. But 2 assists, he know himself he'd want more than that.
Yeah, no, the fair point on that one. Morgan, we'll go to you for the London derby. One of the several London derbies, but Crystal Palace at home to Fulham. Do you give Fulham a squeak here now? Because this is a massive opportunity.
I fancy Fulham, to be perfectly honest. I think this is massive for the relegation picture because if Palace lose this after beating Brighton by the skin of their teeth last weekend on Monday Night Football, they could be in a dogfight and Fulham will be looking to get out of it. Zaha's out. Abire Eze needs to step up if he's worth the hype. He has looked well. He has looked like a very good player when Zaha's been in the team, taking defenders away from him. But when he's the main man, I just haven't seen it from him. I think Ruben Loftus-Cheek will have him in his back pocket all day. Chelsea loanee, as half the league seems to be.
We'll get to that. And
then Josh Maja up front, Sunderland till I die. I'm not so sure on that. But yeah, great. Looks like he'll bang them in not bang them in, but at least grab a handful of goals this season, which could be enough to keep them up, considering that Lookman hasn't looked like he's going to score much or anything like that. So I've gone 1-0 Fulham. I just don't think Gary Cahill and I don't even know who Kayute will have enough to keep to stick with Maja all game. They're just I think Palace are an OAP club for London players.
Both manager and players. Shane, what on Morgan's point there about Crystal Palace, because while they're 10 points clear of Fulham, this is probably if they win this game, they're as good as safe. But if Fulham do win it, it's 7 points. I guess they're still in the mix, and they weren't that impressive against Brighton. I know they got the result, but
Yeah, they still have, obviously they've Fulham play this week, and then I think they still have to play Sheffield United and West Brom in the remainder of their games. So, and then other than that, their fixtures are fairly difficult. So they definitely sort of need to get something out of this game, just to, point takes two away from Fulham. I did actually fancy them for relegation before they played Brighton. They were 10-1 on 365, and I was tempted, very tempted, but I'm glad I didn't in the end. I think like Fulham are sort of on the up. Grinded out a win against Sheffield, but in saying that, I think this could be just a poor draw. Palace don't really need to win. Fulham do. I can see Palace just being sort of backs to the wall, and I don't know. Like, I think Fulham probably have a little bit more quality on the pitch, but I think Palace is just sort of a bit street smart. They've got sort of a bit more experienced players. I thought Palace, they defended really, really well. It was sort of last-ditch stuff there against Brighton, but I thought Cahill and the rest of the gang just threw their bodies on the line. And so I think 0-0 draw here. Sorry, Conor. I sort of hope they win for Conor Daly, but I think it's going to be 0-0.
They are, so patronising you there, Conor. Sean, if I said to you what teams won 4 games out of 25, who would you go with?
I know Fulham have.
Fulham.
Yeah.
So it's amazing, and it was the Sky Sports stat that came up that, despite their good run of form, I think they'd won 1 game in their last 13. So it's just these draws, and I think I'm kind of leaning towards, after Shane spoke there, of maybe the Fulham just coming up short, because they want to win the game, but they really can't afford to lose, and a point will probably get them maybe a point closer to Brighton or Newcastle.
Yeah, and I think Scott Parker will have been delighted that Palace beat Brighton on a number of different reasons, but I think he'll know that Palace they'll want to win this game, but they won't need it as desperately as if they'd lost to Brighton. I thought Palace were really going to struggle this year. I think I had them down as being close relegation candidates. I think they'll probably be pretty safe now, but I think this is a team that Fulham will like playing against. Not a lot of pace in that back line. I do like Tyreek Mitchell, the left back. He looks like a kind of a modern day fullback, someone in the mold of a James Justin, because he can play on either side. I must say, I watched the Fulham Sheffield United game, and I didn't think it was a great game, but I really like Anguissa. I've seen him a couple of times now. He hasn't always played. I know Kearney's out with a big knee injury. Harrison Reed's been in there. But I just love the way he can glide past players. He's just one of them kind of powerful runners from central midfield, sort of like a Basuma at Brighton, who everyone wax lyrical about. Loads of clubs want to sign him, but I really like Anguissa on the weekend. Thought he was brilliant. And Fulham are just generally a decent side of a top goalkeeper who has saved them a couple of times this season. And again, they probably got promoted a year early, if you like. I know they wanted to get promoted. I know that they spent a lot of money with the likes of Mitrovic there, and Anguissa was on loan to Villarreal. But the squad mightn't necessarily be Premier League proven, if you like, or maybe another year in the Championship for Scott Parker. But they've made a good fist of it. So I think they'll make it interesting. Fulham will. So I'll go with a Fulham win, and I'll go with Josh Maja to score.
The magic man. I'm going to row him behind Shane's draw. I think Fulham struggle to break them down. Leicester, Arsenal, mixed up. Sean, I might just stay with you on Arsenal. Disappointed enough against Manchester City. We're recording this before the Europa League, which isn't ideal. But in terms of Premier League, have they completely given up that ghost and focused on Europa League? I know you mentioned that last week.
Yeah, no, I think they should. It was probably just more disappointment in watching a game to see a team that was, probably knew their limits, knew that a 1-0 loss wasn't a bad result. And let's not forget, Manchester City are streets ahead of, second place Manchester United, second place Leicester. Never mind 11th place Arsenal.
11th.
But there was parts of that. There was parts of that where I thought Arsenal were pretty good, looked all right, but it's just Manchester City have a bit of a tap, and they can just turn it on at will. I think like every team has struggled with injuries, and I don't think Arsenal are any different to that. But to lose, I think it's 11 games this season. in the league is pretty shambolic, really.
11 out of 25. Yep.
Yeah, Leicester's an interesting one. That was kind of the start of the big problems this year. That 1-0 loss to Jamie Vardy coming off the bench scoring. Arsenal have an awful record away at the King Power in the last couple of years. I think we did the double over them when they won the league. But ever since then, I think we've really struggled. So I don't see anything other than Leicester domination, James Maddison scoring, Vardy scoring, and Jamie Vardy loves to score against Arsenal, so I'm sure he'll do it as well. But they have a big game. They have a big game in midweek. They're not by all means clear as well in the Europa League, so they're going to have to play players in that. Sunday at 12 o'clock, interesting fixture. Anything can happen. But yeah, all the hallmarks of another Leicester win, and Rodgers doing a good job.
Put Arsenal's form to context. The Wolves are a point behind Arsenal. Palace are 2 points behind Arsenal. Morgan, your take on Arsenal's and Arteta this year?
I think Leicester are everything Arsenal wish they have been for the last 5 years. The way Leicester have recruited, they've sold big players, Mahrez, Kante, and they've replaced them without any issue. Ricardo Pereira, a right back's fantastic. Kasper Schmeichel's been outstanding ever since coming into the Premier League. They've replaced well at centre half from Harry Maguire with Sionchu and now Fofana. I think the midfield three is good enough to be a Champions League midfield three, and Barnes, Yuri Tillmans, and Maddison. I think they're really missing an out-and-out winger, and someone actually like Saint Maximin or Rafinha you could see go to Leicester if they kick on and get Champions League football this season. I think all three of those midfielders start for Arsenal if Partey is injured, which he seems to have picked up an injury bug since coming to Arsenal. Vardy, as Sean said, loves scoring against Arsenal. He's 11 goals in 12 games. Says it all.
After we tried to sign him as well.
Yeah, exactly.
We had him as well. We had him according to Wenger, but anyway.
According to his wife was tweeting where's good to shop in London.
Simpler times. Go on.
Before she became Agatha Christie's victim. But Arsenal, like Sean said, they both do have Europa League midweek. But Arsenal have a much tougher time. Benfica, it's 1-1. Arsenal need to do something in Europa or just bin it off altogether and look at maybe a year without European football like Chelsea did when they won the title with Conte. Just refresh and focus purely on the league. 3-1 Leicester at the end of the day, lads. I think Aubameyang will probably nick one. But Jamie Vardy loves scoring against Arsenal. I could see a double from him and maybe a Fofana or Sionchu or whoever from the back of the corner. Because Arsenal, as Sterling scored a header, don't seem to like the contest in the air. Like Rob Holding is not a top four centre half. Just Arsenal need to get the finger out and look at who is Will towards your transfer.
No, it's Edu. It's Edu.
Edu, yeah.
Will towards, yeah.
Awful. Just need to get the finger out.
It's all Brazilians.
Yeah. Well, Martinelli's probably the only player.
But Arteta doesn't like him anymore, so. But anyway.
No, they do like him.
Martinelli's.
What's he not playing?
Oh no, Martinelli. Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
Martinelli's the only player for Arsenal that's probably improved since coming to the club in the last while. But yeah, 3-1 Leicester.
Shane, and to add to this Arsenal Fan TV segment here.
A lot of negativity.
AFTV, they got mad about that now. You have to call it AFTV.
AFTV, yeah.
I think Claude was the first one that kept doing that wrong, but anyway, he's gone now. But go on, Shane.
A lot of negativity here about Arsenal, lads. Come on. You need to trust the process. Trust the process. But no, they won't win this game. I think like the likes of Maddison, Vardy loves it against Arsenal, and I think Barnes as well coming up against Bellerin, he could really expose him. Arsenal, as Morgan said, Rob Holding, they're just a bit of I don't really fancy them at the back. So yeah, I have to fancy Leicester here. Leicester have such a good record against them. I'm gonna go for a 2-1 Leicester win. I think Arsenal might get a goal. I think they'll get a goal maybe through Saka or something. But I think Leicester just have their number and have had their number for the past few seasons. So 2-1 Leicester. I
think it'd be interesting to see what I think a lot of teams are copped on. Even if you look at Aubameyang, every time he got the ball in that second half, I remember one occasion Riyad Mahrez sprinting back to help Stones, I think it was, and that's not really in Riyad Mahrez's makeup. It's not in his DNA. So it's definitely something Pep Guardiola had worked on. I think a lot of teams have done that to Bukayo Saka now in the last few weeks as well. I think they know he's an important player. It looked like Leicester had a bit of a plan there with Pereira for Grealish. So I wonder if they do something similar with Bukayo Saka. But yeah, Harvey Barnes is another one. You can just see him scoring a goal. I mean, it's tailor-made for Harvey Barnes to score as well. But and again, he's another one that's in shout with an England call-up. It's incredible their strength and depth.
Yeah, for those that want to look, I think Sky Sports did a good segment on that with Alex Scott on Sunday, just in terms of all those players in for the back of Leicester and Harvey Barnes' performance. But he's definitely in the mix anyway. But Shane, Spurs, Burnley. We'll run through this one quick so we get more time on Chelsea United. But yeah, thoughts on this game? You kind of called the West Ham game pretty spot on, which was a big moment in your victory over Conor. I think it was the defining moment, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's not gone well at Spurs. I think Gary Neville christened it a marriage of convenience when Jose took over at Spurs. I think they were getting divorced pretty soon.
Divorce of convenience, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah, mutual consent. Jose will take his pay packet and off he'll go. But yeah, it was interesting what Jose said just after the game. He said that about how good his coaching staff are, that they're second to none, and that there's stuff going on behind the scenes that he can't really control. He sounds a bit like Donald Trump in the last sort of few weeks of his presidency, only he was taking a pop at his own party at the Republicans. I think he's lost the head. I think the two parties need to go their separate ways. And especially against the likes of teams like Burnley, they sort of have struggled to break well organized teams down. I fancy a draw here. I'm going to go for 1-1. Sean Dyche has got Jose's number here. I think they're going to pick up a point.
Yeah, Jose and Trump both big on social media as well. So there's another comparison on that front. Morgan.
I think anything less than a win for Spurs, you could be looking at Jose getting sacked if Spurs can afford it. There's questions.
He's the favourite at the moment.
Burnley are just awful, and as we said earlier, couldn't beat West Brom with 10 men for 60 minutes. They're not even starting. They're starting Jay Rodriguez up front, who's I don't know how he's still playing Premier League football. But yeah, this is Spurs written all over for a bounce back game from West Ham. Harry Kane and Heung-min Son love playing against these little teams. Love padding their stats here. 2-0 win for Spurs. Bale will come off the bench and score and active if he's won the Champions League again. But no. Just 2-0 Spurs. Won't be anything special though.
Sean, very quick word.
Yeah, I thought Spurs were very good in the last 20 minutes against West Ham. So I'll go with Spurs to win by 3 or 4 goals.
Yeah, so Morgan, we'll stick with you. Chelsea, Manchester United. Tell us what it's like supporting Chelsea in the last few weeks with Frank Lampard going. He's obviously a club legend, like the likes of, yourself. A lot of people were giving him stick, sometimes pretty personal stuff. A lot of people claim to not like him, to be honest with you, Frank Lampard. How did you find being managed by him? I guess it almost feels like you're a player here, but how do you feel as a fan being managed by a club legend, and how hard was it to ultimately have to let him go?
I think last season he did as well as anyone could have expected. Top 4 with a mainly academy side. I know Kovacic was signed as a permanent transfer because he was on loan the season before, and Pulisic had come back from Dortmund. But otherwise, you look at Tammy Abraham, who had very little experience in the Premier League, had been on loan at Swansea. Mason Mount had only had championship experience. Fikayo Tomori is now at AC Milan, only a championship. And then having Kepa in goal is a death sentence for any manager. It was sad to see him go, but it was the right call at the end of the day. I don't think that Chelsea team would have gotten any better with him. I think he took them as far as he could. I don't think Werner Havertz would progress under his management style. A lot of people gave him a lot of stick over starting Mason Mount week in, week out, which I think is personally stupid. Mason Mount's been Chelsea's best player, and Tuchel's obviously seen that as well from him starting week in, week out, ahead of players like Ziyech and Kai Havertz. But I just wonder how much longer players like Havertz, Chilwell, and Ziyech are going to be happy sitting, and Pulisic as well, are going to be happy sitting on the bench. because Chilwell was bought for 50 odd million as to be a future left back. He's 23, 24, and he's been replaced by Alonso at left wing back. Personally, I would have wanted Alonso and Emerson gone the summer just gone, even if it was on a loan deal. But look, we're stuck with Marcus Alonso back driving the bus from left back. Well, for me, Chilwell was probably Chelsea's one of our best players in the opening games of the season, scoring goals from left back and getting assists. So I think be perfect for that situation. I think United will play a lot like Atletico did, but it'll be a lot better on the counter attack, with the likes of Rashford. And then I think if United want to win, well, say a lot about Ollie, what team he picks. I think if he starts Fred and McTominay, he'll be happy with a draw. But if he starts Donny van de Beek, I think he's going for a win. And I think Edison Cavani should start up front ahead of Martial. Cavani will be able to hold that ball up against the likes of Rudiger and Christensen and maybe Thiago Silva if he's back, and be able to lay it off to Bruno and Marcus Rashford coming off alongside him. It'd be very interesting now. It's hard to know which way this game will go. In recent years, Ollie's had the last 2 years, Ollie's had the finger on Chelsea bar in the FA Cup semis last season. But with last night's result, I'm feeling quite happy with Chelsea bar the Southampton disaster 1-1. I think it's going to be a 1-0 Chelsea win. It'd be very, very close. It could go either way, or it could any three results or outcomes are possible here.
Shane?
Yeah, I agree with Morgan. I think it will be a pretty close game. Just looking at Chelsea, obviously like really good result against Atletico, but they have to travel. The game was on in Romania, in Bucharest, and then playing again on Sunday. Whereas United playing the Europa League Thursday, and we're 4-0 up against Real Sociedad, so we'll obviously rest a lot of the key players. United weren't great against Newcastle, but sort of did enough to pick up the result. As a United fan, I was devastated to see Fat Frank go. Ollie's had his number for quite some time now, and Tuchel, to be fair to him, he seems to have a method, and it's they never seem to panic on the ball. It's never just hitting the hope. It's bring it from side to side, very methodically, and it's interesting. I know Morgan named off a lot all the quality they have on the bench, and even Kante, like he's not starting. He's sort of coming on when Chelsea are a goal ahead and when they want to see the game out. So it'll be interesting if Tuchel can keep all those sort of big names happy, even to the ones that aren't playing. I think we will play sort of similarly to Atletico, but we have a lot more quality than Atletico. I fancy a 1-1 draw here. I think we'll hit them on the break at least once, but I can see Chelsea scoring. 1-1. That's what I'm going to go for.
Ollie also has a win over Tuchel from the Champions League, in that Ollie's at the wheel night from Rio, so he knows how to play against Tuchel's system.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, Sean.
Yeah, they got very lucky that night though, didn't they? Manchester United with that last minute penalty.
It's a recurrent team. They get lucky every week.
That was the stone water.
It's one of them. It's an impossible game to call because big games this year have been slow, lethargic, training ground games. They're kind of anything can really happen in them. And it all depends on the onus is on probably Manchester United. More. I mean, if they don't win this game, if they win this game, top four is pretty secure for them. If they lose, they're still very much one of the favourites, but Chelsea are back in the mix straight away, and the confidence that win Atletico will give. I know it wasn't at Atletico's home ground, but to beat Atletico Madrid in any game really shows that you've kind of got something about you, because you need more than just footballing ability. The team selection will be very interesting. What Tuchel will do with rotation. I'd imagine he'll bring in a few players. I think he'll probably bring in Chilwell, for example, Reece James, and Manchester United. I don't think they have any other option than to play McTominay Fred, or I don't think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer thinks he has any other option. But yeah, it is one of those games. It could easily be a 0-0. The game at Old Trafford was a prime example of Frank Lampard's struggle as Chelsea manager. Just probably not enough maybe ambition in that game, similar to Ole, who was really under pressure then. So hopefully not, but I'll go 0-0.
Yeah, so 0-0, 1-0 and 1-0. So I'll go 1-0 United then, complete the fourfold there. Sheffield United, Liverpool. Shane, we'll go to you. Surely Liverpool win this. Like,
they can't win this game. They're done for. I think Sheffield United's race is run now at this stage.
Yeah.
That loss to Fulham is definitely, I think, the last nail in the coffin. I think they were gone well before that, but yeah, Liverpool, surely they'll win this game. They have too much quality. I think I see Henderson's, he's out. He's another one to add to the injury list. I think he's out for 2 or 3 months or something like that. But even still, the quality that they have up front. I know Jota's back in training as well for them, which is a much needed boost for them. I think they'll bounce back and win 3-0 here.
Morgan?
Like Shane said, I think Sheffield are done. It's especially with John Egan's injury into last week. He's massive at the back for them, and Enda Stevens hasn't looked up to his flying best like he did last season. You got to question their transfer policy for Sheffield. I think they've done this season what Villa did the year before and try and buy names instead of proven quality players. You look at the likes of Ryan Brewster, like it was never good enough to start for Liverpool in the Premier League and spent 20 odd million on him. Could have come back to hurt Liverpool. I highly doubt it. But then Dizzy McGoldrick loves a goal against Chelsea anyway. But you'd hope for Sheffield, for Chris Wilder, that they don't give him the sack. I don't think they will, and they let him rebuild in a year and come back up and have a good crack at the Championship and come back. Like Shane said, Jota coming back in the next week or two is massive for Liverpool. And it was a good win midweek against Leipzig, even though they didn't kind of deserve it. Against Leipzig, last week. So they'll be out for blood after losing to Everton as well at home. So I've gone 4-0 Liverpool.
Yeah, Sean?
Yeah, I think the first 20 minutes from Liverpool will be important, because I'm sure Klopp will want to have the game wrapped up at half time and bring on players and maybe even give minutes to players and try and get a goal or two out of maybe Origi or Shaqiri. But yeah, I think it could be a long night for Sheffield United. They won't sack him. The owners come out and said that Chris Wilder could walk, I think, is the only thing. But I'm sure he'll be looking to rebuild.
Yeah, he was thinking maybe it could go David Wagner style, but it might go more Sean Dyche and they stick with him for the relegation, I guess. But Shane, final game, we've kind of run a little bit over time, so Everton, Southampton as quick as you can. How do you see this game going? Actually, not a bad Monday Night Football, I guess. Yeah,
it should be an entertaining enough game. Great to see Everton finally beat Liverpool at Anfield. Big Duncan and Seamus Coleman, they were all loving it. And Saints, like they were a bit disappointing against Leeds, and ever since Ralph Hasenhüttl was brought to his knees after beating Liverpool, it's all gone pear-shaped. I think you have to fancy Everton here. I think Everton should have just too much quality for them. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 win, Everton.
Morgan?
I agree. Everton will be flying high after that win against Liverpool, and it's a perfect time to play Southampton. I think the loss of Kyle Walker-Peters, a right back for Southampton, is very much missed going down that wing. I think Digne will probably have a field day going down that wing attacking. And Seamus Coleman looks like he's back playing good football again, which is great news. They just lack quality. Southampton all over the park. Danny Ings is quality, but you don't think he gets the service he needs. James Ward-Prowse is a mid-table midfielder. I've gone the same as Shane. I've gone 2-0 Everton.
2-0 Everton. Nice quiet one. Quick one to Sean on Everton's win over Liverpool.
Yeah, I thought they were really good. probably the example of having a manager like Carlo Ancelotti, and probably just the belief it gave the players. I was actually delighted for Seamus Coleman because, you know, he's not playing to the best of his ability, but you could see what it meant to him. And it'd be interesting to see whether he does start this game, because I know a few Everton fans have been, you know, worried when Holgate starts a game like this where they probably want to dominate a lot of the ball, and they've struggled at times to do it. But you know, it's one of them. I mean, Everton, there's no excuse for Everton if they don't win. They've had the extra couple of days off. Southampton played midweek, had a bad result, bad injuries. You know, Everton have to win this if they've serious top 6 ambitions.
Absolutely, then, lads. So listen, minute of the first goal, Shane. Tiebreak.
4th minute, Jamie Vardy.
4th minute, Jamie Vardy. You don't have to give a goal scorer, Morgan, so don't say Jamie Vardy. Just give us the minute, Morgan. No, I'm done with you, Shane. Go on, Morgan.
7 minute, Timo Werner.
Timo Werner. Come on. Yeah, come on. I thought you were going to go for Tielemans or something there. To be honest with you, started with T. Lads, thanks, Mill. Really enjoyed that. At Tackling Sports social media, you can get it and keep up to date. I'll do the same as last week. We'll get a post up. Hopefully, it's not 1-0 after 5 games, Morgan. I'm sure. I had a quick look. Yeah, you should get at least one point out of the first 5, unlike your counterpart here. But yeah, lads, Shane, Morgan, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks very much, lads.
Cheers, lads. All the best. Thanks.
All the best, Sean. Goodbye from Sean.
Bye.
Goodbye. We'll chat to you on Monday. We'll be back for a Cheltenham preview. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the football.